Hello and welcome to my very first YouTube video, which will be all about Harley Quinn's caution tape outfit from Birds of Prey. I've been collecting materials and various items for this project ever since the first set pictures surfaced early last year. Officially, I started working on this cosplay at the beginning of 2020 and decided to document my progress not only on Instagram, but in video form as well. Alright, with all the housekeeping out of the way, let's jump right into it. For the bodysuit, I found the white version of the screen-accurate swimsuit by GCDS during a major clearance sale, which I was planning on using to take the pattern off of and use the buckles with the GCDS logo. My main fabrics were these two velvets, hot pink for the top and orange for the bottom. For the lining, I chose a simple stretch jersey in matching colors. After two mock-ups, I was able to finalize the pattern and cut out the pieces from my fashion fabric and lining. First, I closed the side and shoulder seams of the velvet and lining layers individually with my serger. Then I prepared the pieces for flatlining by pinning the velvet and lining layers together. Then I serged them together. After the layers had been secured together, the edges were folded over by 1 centimeter and sewn down with a zigzag stitch, just like it was done on the original. Then it was time for the buckles. For the top, I simply fed the buckle onto the loop at the side and secured it with a few stitches. The bottom needed a separate loop, which I made from a simple rectangle cut from the same orange velvet. Then the buckle was slid onto the strip and sewn to the bottom. For the back closure, I didn't use the clear plastic buckle that came with the white GCDS swimsuit, but a standard metal closure that is often used for bikini tops. Same procedure as for the side buckles, they were slid onto the loop and stitched into place. And with that, the bodysuit was complete. Onto the shorts. I bought these shorts that had a similar cut, color and distressed details as the ones Harley wears, as opposed to making them from scratch, which saved me a lot of time. For the stripes, I used this black foil jersey that I've used previously for my classic Harley Quinn suit I made about 2 years ago. I liked the shininess of the material and chose it over black leather or vinyl. First, I marked and cut out all the stripes needed from the jersey. Then, the individual placement of the stripes was marked onto the shorts with a pencil. After that, it was time for glue, but not without my trusty respirator to protect myself from the fumes. The glue needed some time to dry before it got properly tacky. Then I was able to place the stripes where I had marked them and pressed them down to make sure the glue bonded correctly with the materials. After the glue had plenty of time to cure and dry, the only thing left to do was to paint the stars onto the shorts. Similar to what I did with the stripes, I mapped out the placement with a pencil before painting over that with red fabric paint. And just like that, another major piece of this cosplay was done. For the socks, the main materials were this stretchy sequin mesh in black, gold, orange and purple, out of which the outer shell was constructed. For the sole and lining I used this plain black stretch jersey. After a quick mock-up to figure out the pattern and deciding on the dimensions for the sequin diamonds, I started by cutting out the lining and sole from the black jersey. Then I cut out many sequin diamonds out of the 4 differently colored fabrics. And then I cut some more until my whole workspace was covered in loose sequins, which I still keep finding to this day. Before I could even think about putting the socks together, I had to create the front and back panels by sewing the individual diamonds together to create diagonal strips, which were then in turn sewn together. The main challenge was to make sure that all diamonds lined up perfectly, but after sewing a few of them, I started to get a good visual estimate on how to pin the pieces together so they would line up nicely. After the panels were created, it was time to pin the pattern for front and back pieces onto the sequin pieces to serve as a guide when trimming the excess fabric. Now, onto actually constructing the socks. First, I connected the back panel to the sole piece with my serger. Then the front and back pieces were pinned and sewn together, creating the outer layer of the sock. I then repeated the same process with the lining layer. I pinned the sequin and lining layer together at the top edge, sewed across with a narrow zigzag stitch, leaving a small gap open in order to turn the sock inside out. After making sure that all the seams lined up inside, I sewed the opening at the top closed by hand. I repeated the whole process to create the second sock, and then I did a small victory dance in them all through the house. Moving on to the suspenders. I mainly used this neon red elastic for the suspenders, this neon red tulle to connect the 2 elastic pieces together, and some matching neon red thread. The diamond in the back was made out of this silver leather. To sew the leather to the elastic, I used a silver metallic thread. For the hardware, I used suspender sliders, clasps, and swivel hooks. First, I cut the elastic into strips of various lengths, which I then repeated with the tulle. To ensure the elastic and tulle won't slip around too much when sewing, I pinned the tulle between 2 lengths of elastic and basted everything. After everything was secure, I threaded my machine and sewed the elastic and tulle together with a narrow zigzag stitch. Once that was done, I removed the basting and proceeded to add the hardware. After folding the raw edges over and stitching them in place, I slid the straps through the front sliders, folded the edge over again, and secured it with a few whip stitches. The same thing was done for the shorter strap that goes in the back. Once the front sliders were taken care of, it was time to slip the swivel hooks onto the straps. The other raw edge was then fed through the slider again and secured in place by the teeth of the slider. To create the diamond for the back, I first marked the shape I wanted onto the wrong side of the leather twice and cut that out using my leather knife. After marking where the straps were going to go, I applied leather glue to the pieces. Then I moved the straps into position on the front-facing diamond and pressed them down. After all the pieces were in place, I took a hammer to them to permanently bond them with the glue. Next, I applied another layer of glue to the elastic straps. Then, the back-facing diamond was layered on top and hammered into place. As for the final step, I top-stitched around the edges of the diamond with my metallic thread to give it a more professional look. And with that, the suspenders were done. I had originally planned on making the jacket myself, but then I ended up pre-ordering one from Michelle Überreste, who made the jacket for Margot Robbie to wear in the movie. I love the silhouette and the confetti sleeves, and I'm so grateful to Michelle that she was so kind to offer up these jackets for all us Harley cosplayers out there. As of this recording, Michelle is still accepting pre-orders for the base vest without the sleeves, which you would have to add yourself. I'll link her Instagram and website for the pre-orders down below. The shoes are the screen-accurate Molten Kali high white printed mesh heels by United Nude from their Spring/Summer 2019 collection. As for the jewelry, the necklace is the OG Jackson diamond chain, which is the screen-accurate one used in the movie, as is the D-ring Harley earring set, both by Billy Valentine. The feathered ear cuff was made by Little Minx Cosplay. All other earrings and cuffs, as well as the rings, are by the lovely Kristy, aka For the Love of Harley on Instagram. Her attention to detail is incredible, and she works tirelessly to provide us Harley cosplayers with high quality items. So, if you're in need for some Harley cosplay pieces, go check out her Etsy store, the link to which you'll find in the description. My base wig was a long Suicide Squad Harley lace front wig with pre-dyed pigtails. First things first, I trimmed off the excess lace in the front. To start out, I thinned out my wig by removing about every other weft on both sides. I ended up taking out about half of the volume. Before it was time for a dye job, I combed the section that would become the bangs to the front and hit the fibers with some heat from a blow dryer so they would lay nice and flat in their new position. Onto the roots. I started out by dyeing the roots with fabric dye, but that didn't go exactly as planned, so I switched over to Copic markers, which worked so much better. I don't have any footage of me actually cutting the pigtails and bangs, because I had to do that while actually wearing the wig, and I didn't have an optimal filming setup for that. Which is why we now skip to dyeing the pigtails, thanks to the magic of editing. Just like all my other Harley wigs, they were dipped into pink and blue synthetic fabric dyes, rinsed out with water and left to dry. And here it is, the finished wig. Now, wig styling certainly isn't my strong suit, so I'm quite pleased with how this one turned out. For Harley's tattoos, I already had most of them ready to go, as I've previously used them plenty of times for my Suicide Squad Harley cosplays. Only some had to be edited, added onto, and crossed out, such as the Harley and Puddin' and I Heart Puddin' tattoos. For the Puddin' tattoo to become pudding cups, I used a screen cap from the scene where Harley changes the tattoo on herself as a reference. Then I Frankensteined the new letters together by taking similar shapes from existing tattoos so as to preserve the same style. I used my drawing tablet to create the mermaid torso sitting on top of the J on her upper arm, working off of reference images of Harley in her gold overalls. After all the tattoos were done, I spaced them out on A4 sheets, mirrored them and printed everything onto tattoo transfer paper. Now they were ready to be applied. There you have it, my Harley Quinn caution tape outfit is done! I had so much fun making this. It was a lovely contrast to her main look from Suicide Squad, and I simply feel like a total badass when wearing it. I hope you enjoyed following me on this journey. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Have you made a Harley cosplay as well? Which look from Birds of Prey is your favorite? Let me know. If you are interested in seeing me tackle her other looks from the movie, as well as lots more cosplay projects in the future, feel free to subscribe to my channel and follow me on Instagram. And if you are into historical dressmaking and vintage fashion, you're more than welcome to check out my other YouTube channel and Instagram account, Sewing Through Time, all of which will be linked in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.